The race is on. Federal election campaign kicks off. The highly anticipated and fiercely contested federal election campaign has officially begun at Rito Hall. I'm Mercedes Stevenson, bringing you a special edition of the West Block. The start of the campaign promises to ignite a fast-paced and intense race as political leaders set their strategies in motion. Our panel of reporters is here to break down the latest expectations and discuss the key angles each party might target in the battle for votes. Today marks RIT Day, the first day of the federal election campaign, as leaders finalize their plans. Prime Minister Mark Carney, who will soon become the Liberal leader, is at Rito Hall today to formally request that the Governor-General dissolve Parliament. The timing is tight, with just one day before Parliament was set to reconvene following its prorogation. To discuss the campaign's developments, we are joined by our chief political correspondent David Akin and Toronto Star's bureau chief Tonda McCharles. The anticipation for this election is building, and it's expected to be unlike any other. But first, let's turn to David, who has been closely tracking the latest polling data. David Akin, it's a chilly day with temperatures at -8 degrees Celsius, so we're bundled up, but there's no cooling down the excitement around these numbers. Ipsos, our polling partner, recently asked Canadians who they believe would make the best Prime Minister. Right now, Mark Carney leads with 42% support, followed by Pierre Poilievre at 32% and Jagmeet Singh at 12%. This question of leadership is set to play a crucial role in the campaign. In terms of party support, the Liberals currently hold a lead with 42%, while the Conservatives are at 36%, and the NDP stands at 10%. This is significant, especially when considering the Liberals' track record in the last two elections, where they won the most seats but lost the popular vote. The question now is whether the Liberals can maintain their momentum or if the Conservatives can close the gap with new attacks aimed at Mark Carney. The Conservatives have already launched a new ad campaign portraying Carney as a corporate villain. They are hoping to make him less popular and to weaken his momentum. But the shift in political dynamics has been dramatic. Everything changed when Justin Trudeau, in January, made the unexpected decision to step down. That opened the door for Mark Carney to enter the race, and within just a couple of months, the polling numbers have shifted considerably. However, there's still fluidity in the numbers, especially among Liberal voters, who have shown some shift toward Carney but could easily move back toward other parties. This election is still anyone's race, with the Liberals currently in the lead, but the outcome is far from guaranteed. David Akin, the Conservative base, however, remains strong. Their support is solid, and there's a lot of momentum behind Pierre Poilievre. One thing to keep in mind is that Conservative votes often don't show up accurately in polling, as we saw with the US election and the rise of Donald Trump. So, Poilievre could have more support than these numbers suggest. Tonda McCharles, one of the most interesting aspects of this election is that it's being led by two political novices. While Poilievre has been in politics for years, he's never led a party in an election. On the other hand, Mark Carney only recently entered the political scene. Neither has much experience running a federal campaign, which will undoubtedly make this an interesting race. Even though Carney represents the incumbent government, he's essentially in a challenger position, trying to take on Poilievre, who's been solidly positioned as the leader for years. The focus will be on leadership qualities and the ability to handle crises, as well as managing public perception. This election, like many others, will test how voters view their leaders' abilities to navigate challenges. In terms of strategy, the election is expected to be short. Carney chose the minimum possible election period of 36 days to limit his exposure. He hopes to ride the momentum and keep the campaign as swift as possible. The Liberals are trying to maintain their lead, while the Conservatives, who have been in campaign mode for a long time, are prepared to engage in full attack mode. Tonda McCharles, the race may seem a bit disorganized for the Liberals, as they still need to fill candidate spots and are facing some internal tensions. For example, in Carney's riding, the Liberal Party appointed a new candidate just days after expelling the former MP who had won 3 elections. There's a lot of last-minute scrambling, and it's clear the Liberals have their work cut out for them. What makes this election especially unique is the focus on foreign policy and defense. Canadians don't typically vote based on these issues, but this campaign is shaping up to be very different from the norm. The last time foreign policy dominated was in the late 1980s with the free trade election, a distant memory for many. The question will be whether Canadians are willing to prioritize issues like sovereignty and international relations over traditional domestic concerns. Both Carney and Poilievre will need to appeal to voters' sense of national security and their approach to global challenges. As we saw in the Ontario election, affordability is a key issue, and it's likely to dominate this federal race as well. Poilievre will likely argue for change, portraying Carney as the embodiment of the status quo, while the Liberals will frame Carney as a stable and crisis-ready leader. The outcome will depend on how Canadians respond to these competing visions. The economy will also be a major factor, especially with the global tariff war looming. This could introduce issues like economic policy and affordability into the debate, forcing all candidates to address their plans for the future. Carney's first move was to scrap the consumer carbon tax, and with gas prices set to drop, the issue of affordability will play a huge role. With 5 weeks of campaigning ahead, things are sure to change quickly. As we've learned in politics, 24 hours can make all the difference. Thank you, David and Tonda, for your insights today. We'll continue to follow the campaign closely as it unfolds. Next, we'll sit down with party strategists to discuss their approaches and what we can expect from the different parties as the race intensifies. Stay tuned. Applause.